can have a tendency to strike very pretty, erratic poses, attitudes. The fact is that there are many issues that actually do divide us, Christians and Muslims. There are causes for concern. But I think what these issues and these causes for concern need are, perhaps they need a sense of perspective. Whenever in Malaysia, in a former incarnation, I'd be asked to give talks to Christian groups, to churches, about Islam and especially about the Islamic State, because my own area of specialization is Islamic law, and in particular the Islamic law of administration in an Islamic state, I always begin the talks by asking the Christian and very often Catholic audience, I was going to say congregation there, to try to picture themselves in a kind of ideal Catholic state. Imagine, if you will, a kind of Ave Maria township, but with the aspirations of the Alaskan Independence Party. And on this wonderful world, down Main Street, you won't be able to buy contraceptives. All sex outside marriage would be criminalized. Certainly, abortion will be criminalized, with penalties including up to, the death penalty, etc., etc. And you'd be surprised what an enthusiastic reception this model Catholic state actually gets from many of the audiences that I asked to engage in this sort of fantasy exercise. And yet the very same audience is usually there precisely because they are concerned about the possibility of living in an Islamic state, particularly in the context of Malaysia, in a state that organizes its polity around Islamic principles of morality, of the public good. What that tells us is that at a very human level, what we all want to do essentially is live within our own comfort zones. That's not a bad thing. I find that when winter comes, as it certainly seems to have done certainly today, I want to sit in my room in an armchair, wrap myself in a nice woolen coverlet, and drink lots and lots of cups of cocoa with marshmallows in them, right? It's my comfort zone, and it's not a bad thing. But the fact is that Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists also want to live in their comfort zones. And the issue for us is, how do we accommodate those zones? Often, as Christians, we cite religious violence as a kind of characteristic of Islam today. Post 9/11, I suppose this is inevitable. But what is missing from that discourse often is the issue of Christian violence. If you were to ask a gay person in California today about the passing of Proposition 8, greatly supported by Christian groups and by the Catholic bishops, you will find that most gay people will speak of their experience of the passing of Proposition 8 as an experience of real violence, whether or not you agree with their position. When violent protests broke out in the wake of the Muhammad cartoons by the Danish newspaper, the Jyllands-Posten, some years ago, I heard many comments from Christians about how we as Christians, while we might be offended by some act of blasphemy, would certainly never resort to acts of violence to express our disgust. But surely, if that were true, abortion clinics and abortion doctors would not have to take, certainly in the United States, the security measures that they have to. It's almost a cliche of our discourse about Islam that Islam treats women shabbily. And yet the Catholic Church is in no position to talk down to anyone about the rights of women. If we keep insisting on the inevitability of Islam being on the road to terror, for example, or if we keep insisting that somehow inherently the values of Islam are contrary to our values, well, if this were true, then really we would also have to say that the Spanish Inquisition for us was simply prologue. But with some relief, we can say that the Spanish Inquisition for the Catholic Church is not prologue. It is simply history.